What happens when you move into an old creepy home that screams, "Fuck off, I'm haunted"? Well, it's obvious, right? You stay there and act like nothing is wrong or weird about the obviously haunted house. And that's exactly what the Crane family did in The Haunting of Hill House. Until shit got real crazy. That's right, this week we're taking a look at Netflix's spooky series, a show that has so many bloody ghosts that they should start paying rent, quite honestly. Bloody freeloaders. So after watching this series and definitely not screaming like a little girl, we found 10 interesting facts about the show that you may not have known. So if you had questions like, what are some of the real backgrounds on the more prominent freeloaders, I mean ghosts? How exactly did they pull off episode 6? And who should you really call if you have a ghost problem? The answer to that one is no one. You just get the hell out of the house. If the kids are with you, great. If they're still stuck in the house, well, too bad, you tried your best. And there you go, that's my ghost survival guide. Available now on all bad bookstores. Anyway, we got the answers for you. Number 1. So The Haunting of Hill House is a Netflix TV show and a reimagining of the 1959 novel of the same name written by Shirley Jackson. The show doesn't attempt to recreate the story from the novel, but instead tells its own story revolving around Hill House. However, the show does take themes and even character names from the book. For example, a basic description of the book's premise is that John Montague is fascinated by Hill House's tragic history and assembles 3 volunteers for his study on the effects the house may have on people. Those volunteers are Theodora, who experiences a type of sixth sense, Luke, who is heir to the house and now who is haunted by the death of her mother. These 3 characters appear in the show as some of the Crane children. Out of all 3 of them, Luke goes through the most changes from book to show, while Theo and Nell remain fairly similar to their book counterparts. The character of Shirley in the show is named after Shirley Jackson, the novel's author. Number 2. Production began back in October of 2017 in Atlanta, Georgia in the US, and the show is created by Mike Flanagan, who is no stranger to horror as his previous writer and director credits include Oculus, Hush, Ouija Origin of Evil, Gerald's Game, and the upcoming sequel to The Shining, Doctor Sleep, and also what appears to be a remake of I Know What You Did Last Summer? Okay. Ooh, it's number 3. The Haunting of Hill House is of course not the only adaptation of, The Haunting of Hill House. The book has had 2 film adaptations made, the first being in 1963, which turned out to be a fairly faithful adaptation and received critical praise.
What does it take to convince you that the dead do not always rest in peace? That some houses, like Hill House, are born bad.
The second film adaptation was released in 1999 and it was utter crap and starred some of the biggest stars of the 90s, including Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones and Owen Wilson. Wow! The film differed considerably from the story of the novel, and not in a good way. It's number 4. The Netflix show follows the 5 Crane children and their lives as adults after the events of their childhood experience in Hill House. Each of these characters represents the 5 stages of grief, with Steve representing denial as he denies the events that occurred in the house when they were kids. Shirley, who represents anger, who is, well, basically fucking angry at everyone, to be honest. Theo represents bargaining. With her ability, she's always bargaining for a better outcome. Luke represents depression. Despite being a depressed addict, he doesn't really start to properly represent this stage until, spoiler alert, Nell's death, where he begins to feel as though he can't cope now that his twin sister is gone, and takes her death the hardest out of all the family. And finally, Nell represents acceptance, as upon arriving at Hill House before, spoiler alert, her death, she accepts both her impending death and being reunited with her mother. But that's not all, because as well as these characters being representations of the 5 stages of grief, they are also born in the order you experience these stages. Holy fuck. I got 5 on it. Oh, copyright strike. Throughout the series, there are many hidden ghosts in many scenes. Often these are faces showing up in the corner of shots or in shadows. There are around 33 hidden ghosts in total, but there is a possibility of there being more. Here are a few examples. It's number 6. So in this show we have a ton of ghosts, like Seriously, it's not haunted. It's an infestation. Where are the Ghostbusters when you need them? Anyway, let's take a look at some of the more prominently featured ghosts and their backstories. Let's start with Bent Neck Lady, the first of the ghosts to be seen. Of course, if you've seen the show, you'll know that this ghost turned out to be Nell, and that she had been haunting herself throughout her lifetime, as time moves differently for the dead. Poppy Hill, another ghost that makes a few appearances, is probably the closest thing to a personified antagonist in the show. Poppy married into the Hill family. She met her husband William Hill in the asylum where they were both patients and took up residence in the Hill house shortly after. As a ghost, Poppy infiltrates Olivia's mind and convinces her that her children need saving from the terrible realities of the world. She believes the only way to wake them up from their nightmares is to kill them. And she's definitely not a nusser. The tall freaky motherfucker is William Hill, the husband of Poppy, and tends to torment Luke. During his life, William drove himself insane from guilt of his infidelity and used bricks to close himself into a basement wall, where Hugh finds his body 50 years later. Hill continues to haunt Luke for stealing his iconic bowler hat when he was a child living in Hill House. Just give it up, mate. Get another hat. Hazel Hill is a bedridden old woman who Clara cared for until her death. She's typically seen as a spooky background ghost in Hill House, but she speaks up when Poppy is trying to trick Olivia. She makes it known that they have a contentious relationship as sister-in-laws. Hazel ran the Hill business for years until William returned to claim the house and business for himself as heir. It's been speculated that Hazel was responsible for the deaths of Poppy's children in order to keep control over the business. The ghost kid in the wheelchair is one of Poppy and William's children. He can't walk or talk and bangs on the walls to communicate with his parents. The Crane children hear lots of inexplicable banging in their rooms in the middle of the night, which is coming from the young ghost. Did you like that? I did like a thing. I did like a spooky voice thing. Like a spooky voice. Number 7, baby. Number 7. Anyone who has watched this show will find it very hard to forget about episode 6, Two Storms. Ooh. Spooky. Why? Because the bulk of the episode was presented as one long continuous shot with impressive seamless transitions from the present and the past. An impressive piece of filmmaking and one that makes the tension of the episode that more greater. Mike Flanagan decided to achieve this effect for the episode. They would film 5 unedited takes, one of them being an insanely long tracking shot which took about 17 minutes. This idea, to have the bulk of the episode be one long take, was thought of way back in pre-production. In fact, even the design of the Hill House and the funeral home were created with episode 6 in mind by having the two sets right next to each other and having their corridors connect. By doing this, they were able to achieve a seamless transition from present to past as Hugh Crane is walking down the corridor. The sets also had hiding spots for the cast and crew. Production was halted for an entire month while the crew spent hours practicing the camera's movements, the actors' positions, and the lighting of each spot. Production used lighting and sound cues for the cast and crew to signal them to perform certain actions or lines. Lighting was especially important because if a lighting cue was missed, or too early, or even too late, the scene wouldn't be lit properly and they would have to redo the entire thing. That goes for any mistakes with the camera work or even actors missing their lines or even their actions. If anything like that happened, it was back to square one. Talk about a fucking nightmare. You wanna know a secret? It's number 8. As stated earlier, the character of Shirley is named so as a nod to Shirley Jackson, the author of the original novel, but that is not the only reference to the writer or her book of which the series is based on. Luke's treatment center is called the Sadison Clinic. Sadison was Luke's last name in Shirley Jackson's novel. Young Theo is seen reading The Lottery, also written by Shirley Jackson, while sitting outside in episode 2. A Dr. Montague appears in the show as Nell's therapist. This character is a clear nod to Shirley Jackson's character Dr. John Montague, which appears in the Haunting of Hill House novel. And in the show, Mrs. Dudley explains to Olivia Crane about her rule of not staying in the house after dark. The lines that she uses to explain herself is very similar to the lines in the novel where Mrs. Dudley explains herself to Nell.
Good heavens, number 9.
In the show, we learn that the Red Room is able to change forms, and throughout the show we have seen this room disguise itself as several different rooms without us even knowing it until it's revealed in the last episode. However, a clue about the true nature of the Red Room is the window. Despite the fact that the layout of the room keeps changing, the window always stays in the same place.
I say, old chap, it's number 10.
The Amblin logo is seen at the end of each episode, and as we all know, features the silhouette of E.T. riding in a basket of Elliot's bicycle in front of the moon, from the 1982 movie E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Elliot is played by Henry Thomas, who plays young Hugh Crane in the show. Also, the character of Steve is named after Steven Spielberg, the founder of Amblin Entertainment and director of E.T. Well, there you go, 10 facts about the haunting of Hill House. So, have you seen this show? What did you think about it? And are you looking forward to season 2? Let me know down in the comments. And if you like this, then why not check out our other Film Facts videos? Or if you want to support us, why not consider subscribing, liking the video, or even sharing it? And if you want to keep up with our latest videos, then hit the bell to stay notified. Well, thanks for watching, guys.